So three things he says there. He wants to be remembered as the one who reduced prices, stabilized currency, created jobs. So his focus was very clear. He knew what he wanted to do. He articulated it, and there were three key bullet points. So let's track that a year on. Let's start with the obvious question about the exchange rate. And I'll start with that, although that was his second priority. His first priority was reduce prices. His second was exchange rate, stabilize the exchange rate. Now, at the time in December 2024, just before this particular vetting happened, it was $1 equals 14 cedis, 7 pesos. As we speak currently in February of 2026, it is $1 equals 11 cedis. So you could say that as far as that is concerned, he ticks the box on the stabilization of the cedi. The exchange rate question, which was his priority. Number two, stabilizing the currency. This tells us that he has ticked that particular box, and part of the reason why we've seen a lot of the positives in the economy as we've seen. And then there's a second question, which is for him the first priority, which is he wants to be remembered as a minister who reduced prices. And that goes to the inflation question necessarily. And remember, inflation will come to that. It's not necessarily the reduction in price. In fact, it is not at all the reduction in prices. This is the fact that prices are increasing, but at a slower pace. But it has consequences for price stability for the consumers, right, for the general public. And if you look then at that, you see at the time that in December 2024, it was 23.8%. Currently, we're talking about 3.8%. And historically, I'll show you the graph very shortly, this is the lowest inflation we've had in 27 years. The last time we had that was 1999, according to the Statistical Service itself. And so that tells us a story that on that question of reducing prices, this is not sufficient to say he's ticked the box. We need to see additional evidence, right, before we can come to the conclusion. But it is strongly pointing to him keeping that promise. And the additional evidence will show to make the point. The only way to do that, and the thing about the case of Ato Forson'S, is that he believed in the real economy. So we had to measure this in the real economy. We did exactly just that pretty shortly. Stay with me. Now, I say the three things he says he will do is what we call, PM Express, the autonomics, because that basically defines his policy, his theory of economic management. And now we look at the cedi appreciation. When it comes to the decline that we've seen over the period, the cedi's appreciation is very strong, a factor there. And you also have the lower fuel prices all coming together to ensure that inflation is doing very, very well under his watch. And then you see the graph there that tells a big story of 23.8, as we said, in December 2024, to now 3.8% in terms of the rate of inflation in January 2026. Again, making the point that yes, he's on a path now to ensuring that prices are reduced. And when we begin to break it down, you see that he's had that impact. He's ticked that box in many respects. And inflation dropping to this historic low as far as 27-year window is concerned also backs his promise that he has obviously evidentially delivered on. Now, a key thing to watch is what I was just indicating for you historically. You want to track back. And this is the 27-year graph that we pull for you just to make the point about where this particular inflation figure sits within the broader scheme of things. If you track back all the way to 1999, 27 years you're talking about, this is the lowest we've seen, and he takes the credit for it because he came before the Parliament's Appointments Committee, was asked the question, and he was clear on his vision and his priorities, and this indeed, he delivers a historic low in 27 years as far as inflation is concerned. Okay, so how exactly is the Statistical Service calculating inflation? And this has been a subject of some controversy last week when the number, of course, is 3.8. You can understand that. If it's 27 years, you haven't seen this number before, people will raise questions. So basically, 207 selected items. The statisticians go into the marketplace, they select 207 of the items. They go to 57 markets across the country, and they look at 8,337 outlets, and then they look at the prices of goods across these outlets and in these markets, and they strike the average over time, and then they arrive at the headline inflation figures. That is how they do this. But the items for me are important. We talk about food and non-alcoholic beverages, housing, water, electricity, clothing. You talk about recreation, you talk about education services, all go into that basket that then is analyzed, and then the average price is then struck, and then we get a sense of what the inflation rate is. But I like this, because let's now relate to it, and let's take Ato Forson'S at his own game, because he likes the real economy. That's what really he believes to be what you need to use to measure if the economy is doing well or not. Reflection in your pocket. And if you just look at this one, we picked this directly from the Statistical Service basket, by the way, real numbers on bread. It used to be 12.8% as far as the inflation rate is concerned in January 2025, when he was vetted, just around the same time when he was vetted. Currently, the inflation rate is at 8% in that particular basket. What does that mean? That tells you that the prices of bread have not necessarily dropped, but the rate at which it's increasing is very, very slow. And Sarah has bread for me to illustrate the point.
Hi, Rose.
Thank you, Sarah. How much is this?
So this is 22 cedis.
22 cedis.
Yeah.
Where did you get it?
Article.
Article.
Close to Dansoman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 22 cedis?
Yes.
In article?
Yes.
Okay. Now, Sarah went to that particular bakery and had an interaction. So this particular bread we're seeing right now, currently the rate of inflation is 8%. It used to be 12.8% in 2025 when Ato Forson'S was vetted. So what really is the market telling us? We spoke to two individuals who ran a bakery. Sarah did. Watch.
Tell me how much you were selling your bread last year. How much was the price?
Yeah, it's the same price as today.
How much was it?
Yeah, at first it was 22, and it's the same 22. This year is still 22.
But I know the inflation has really dropped.
Yeah.
It's 3.8%. So why are you still selling it at 20?
In Ghana here, we don't matter much about inflation. When prices decrease, when inflation decreases, when exchange rate decreases, we don't care about those things. Prices don't change.
Are you sure?
Yes, we don't reduce our prices.
How much was the flour? Is it a sack?
Yeah, it's a sack,
Okay,
50
so how much was it
kilogram.
last year?
Last year, from where we usually buy it is 755 at Kanishi.
Okay.
But I don't know the wholesale price.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's for a sack. One sack was
One sack.
What flour this year?
Yeah, we usually.
When you bought it, how much was it?
This year is 135. 735.
Meaning there have been some decrease. So why are you not reducing your prices?
Just as I said, in Ghana here, when those exchange rate and inflation rate drops, it doesn't affect our commodity price. Nobody wants to decrease their prices. Even though that is the nature of Ghanaian businessman.
Okay, what about other ingredients? So aside from the flour, what again do you buy, and what are the prices? Tell me about the prices, comparing it from last year to this year.
It depends the type of ingredient that you use. Some ingredients has come down, others too hasn't.
So which one do you use, and have they come down?
Yeah, the one that we use, the margin like this, at first it was 460, but now it's 420. Others also sell it 410. So it depends. It normally change.
I want to focus on you. Last year you bought is it a container, the margarine?
No, we're buying it in small quantity, 20 pieces or 10 pieces or 5 pieces, depends.
So last year, how much was it? How much did you buy it?
The quantity or the price?
The price.
The price was 450. 450 or and 460 in between that price.
And this year, how much is it?
This year it has dropped to 410.
Meaning prices have gone down.
Yeah, what we are afraid of is maybe it can go up again.
But it hasn't. It hasn't. Oh.
And the difficulties where we are facing the bread business is that when you try to decrease the price and you are increasing it again, customers will not buy it. They will reject it. money is not in the system, so a lot of people, if you try to reduce and increase, nobody will care to buy it again.
So finally, even though prices have gone down, you still can't reduce your...
No, because of the customers' behavior. You know, the way customers usually relate to increasing and decreasing, it doesn't even push us to or affect us to decrease the price.
How much was your bread last year? The loaf of bread?
Last year is 19.
Last year was 19.
But this year is 20.
Why? The inflation has dropped. I thought that you rather reduce it to maybe 18 or 17 cedis. Why is it 20 cedis now?
Last year, one flour is 740, but now it's 710. Reduced 30 cedis. But our cars, spare parts has gone up. Electricity has gone up. Water has gone up. First, like I can buy 200 cedis light a week, but now it's double.
Okay.
And that's the reason why I increased mine.
Okay. What about the other ingredients like the butter,
margarine, everything? Yes.
How about those prices?
The margarine too has come down.
But what's the name? What again do you use as?
Not make flavors. But just small, 5 cedis, 10 cedis, that's flavors, 5 cedis, 10 cedis.
Okay.
So I can't change anything.
Okay.
That's why.
So now your bread is
20 cedis.
20 cedis.
One loaf. But the customers, they sell it 25 cedis.
Okay. Do you have any plans of reducing it again?
No.
Okay.
Unless they reduce the flour.
How much is the flour now?
710.
710.
710.
Last year was
740.
740. Okay. So if they are able to reduce it to
like 600, yeah.
You can
also reduce it, but it's like maybe 15 cedis or 70.
The drop of the inflation is not really having an impact on.
No. Because now light has gone up.
Okay, so your problem is the light
spare parts.
That's transport. Right? Okay.
Spare parts.
Okay.
Last year I bought one of my car boot 5,000. By this year 10,000.
Wow. Okay. So they are all influencing the prices of your bread.
Okay. So if like flour come like 600, yeah, we can reduce it by 15 cedis.
Okay.
So I'm still holding the bread because it's a fascinating story. Let's break what we just had down. This really illustrates this inflation conversation in a way that you can relate to. So let's take the first individual we spoke to who ran that bakery. He tells us that in his case, the input, but both of them really, the input that they used to produce this bread, this loaf of bread, both prices have reduced significantly. Because in the case of flour, in the first guy's instance, he says that the price of flour has gone down by 20 cedis. In the second guy's instance, the price of flour that he currently buys is now 30 cedis less than what it used to be a year ago. So that's flour. And you can imagine, flour is such a central input in producing bread. And then there's margarine. Margarine has gone down by 40 to 50 cedis. So that's significant indeed. And you will think that they will pass that savings on to you as far as the price of bread is concerned. So you see inflation, the inflation rate is dropping all the way down to 3.8%. What it means, in the case of flour and margarine, prices have dropped 20% to 30% in the case of flour, between 40 to 50 cedis, sorry, not percent, between 20 to 30 cedis in the case of flour, 40 to 50 cedis in the case of margarine. So you would expect that the price of the bread that Sarah bought, will come down. It hasn't. In the case of the second guy, it actually has gone up by 1 cedi. But that again illustrates the inflation question, right? So in 1 year, it's gone up by 1 cedi. So prices are increasing, but at a slower rate. It could have gone up by as much as 10 cedis. Remember, inflation used to be above 50%. That we didn't have price stability. In the first guy's case, inflation is stable because the bread we bought from him is 22 cedis. And it's been 22 cedis for a year. That's price stability. That is the benefit you get when you have inflation that low. But this is another benefit. For those two guys who run the bakery, they are making savings from the flour because that price has dropped, and they're making savings from margarine. So for them, the producers who manufacture this, the producers' bread, they have savings in their pocket for themselves and for their families. So their purchasing power have obviously improved. But he tells you another story, that he's then looking at other factors like spare parts. But I question that, because if you have stable exchange rate and the cedi is strong, you expect that it to translate to the cost of spare parts will drop. So in his case, and the two of them, their cases, they are making profit there. Profit that they would have made a year ago. But they say, remember, for so long a time, they were bearing the brunt, and so it's time for them to reap the rewards. But economic theory, prices are sticky. They will not drop as fast as they increase. And so although we've seen in the case of bread, the margarine prices have gone down, flour prices have gone down, cost of bread remains the same. Sarah, you can have your bread back. But that is, in a nutshell, thank you, Sarah, what inflation is all about. And again, comes back to the first point that we made from the finance minister. He says he was to be remembered as a minister who reduced prices. In the case of margarine and flour, he's ticked that box. In the case of bread itself, he has price stability. In the case of the second guy who runs the bakery, who has increased it by 1 cedi, yes, price has gone up, but it's slower than you would have had if inflation was at 23% as he met it when he came in January. So I hope that explains the point about inflation. Let's use cake again and fish. And again, this is in the inflation basket, by the way. I want to isolate the subject of fish, but again, if you look at cake and fish in itself, it used to be 17.8% inflation. In January 2025, it's dropped to 12.8% in the basket. Doesn't mean that the price of kinky has reduced, not at all. It means that the rate of trade, the price of kinky is increasing, is slower. But in the case of fish, fried fish, the evidence says prices have dropped. There's deflation. So prices are going down when it comes to fish. And that's why we isolated that here. You see that that's minus 50.7%. Fascinating indeed, is it not? So we take that plate of kinky and fish. Kinky price itself is not reducing, but it's slow in terms of the rate of increase. But fish, according to Statistical Service, prices have dropped, and have dropped quite significantly. That again is an illustration. Again, you look at tomato, same story. In the case of tomato, we have prices dropping from 43.3% in January 2025 when case Ato Forson'S was sworn in and was vetted to minus 42.5. So I hope that explains what this whole inflation conundrum is concerned. What does that mean for you? Solar price increases, you begin to see that immediately. These two individuals who run the bakery, they're experiencing it as far as the business is concerned. Better business planning, they can plan, there's price stability. In a year, bread price, as far as the second guy is concerned, has gone up 1 cedi. You can price, you know that you don't have to be worried about anytime you go, prices of bread have gone up or down. We have reduced arbitrary price hikes. It's exactly what we've seen. The bread we bought was 22 cedis. It's remained 22 cedis for a year. In a long time, we haven't seen that because inflation was very, very high. We have increased disposable income. That's true, because that man who hasn't passed it on to you, he's making some money from the margarine and the flour, and we have increased consumption. That is also showing there. But the fundamental question we need to ask when we sit down for a conversation is, how come flour has dropped, margarine has dropped, but they haven't passed it on? They explain that. What can government do to push to ensure that the positives we see in the prices reflected in the bread you buy? And it really across the market, by the way. It's not only bread that tells the story. Low inflation definitely does not equate to price reduction. We've already illustrated that for you. I don't have to belabor the point. Low inflation definitely equates to price stability. In the case of the bread that we just showed you, 22 cedis in a year, never changed. Even when it increased by 1 cedi, you can plan with that price stability. Again, look at the question about the target, what the Bank of Ghana is targeting, 6 to 10% band is what you're hoping for, that this will sort of oscillate in to keep the single-digit inflation still going. Expected to remain within target band, barring any shocks. And the question about shocks is something that we need to talk about tonight, because again, whilst we are experiencing these positives and you're experiencing it in your pocket, as you illustrated with the bread, utility tariffs are a question. You heard one of them mention that point in the analysis of why he's not passing on the reduced prices in margarine and flour to you in terms of the cost of the bread. Agricultural supply shocks, gold and cocoa price volatility. These are things that we need to hedge against. How is the government doing that? We'll look at that too. Base pay, big question. Government got the labor unions to agree to a 9% increase because at the time they told them inflation was 8%, and then we are going to make sure they stay within this band. The workers agreed. They got 9%. Their followers said, no way, that is too small. But government has kept their promise to them. Inflation has gone down from 8% to 3.8%. What that means is that this should lead to more disposable income for them. As you just illustrated there, if you're a business person, you are enjoying that. You have the fuel prices that have gone down also. All that is the reason why you've seen labor, after the initial agitations, have calmed down. But the inflation begins to rise again, you definitely hear them complain. Fascinating indeed how all this comes together in terms of how this affects your pocket. My guess
said the year 2025 aye the babeshe 2026 mu no inioma sen 2024 downwards, but yentimi enyi Ato Forson'S emfiri mu one honorable sameje mfi enti wa wo hwe statistics ya ye broda wode ema ye a ehwi na ya hwe na se Ato Forson'S no obo no homodin. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama boss body a wogi ni nyina no ebi efri Ato Forson'S the nioma oye no enum point na ma ebinum ka say so stand for their presidential primaries na ebia delegates no ebeti no mo ato aba no e de ama no because nioma oye no nsemu a ko vetting as wo kan ye no emu bebre e wo ho a watumi achieve even within 1 year, but nobody knows what will happen. But ye de mom paye semre to amres no ebia omfeli se ni nioma ahyase no saa na ye bom paye se e de bekwa ko du 2028 na elections biom asan so aba na se nioma ekoso eyese dia mgidi se ebia NDC ebetumi asan awani power entimi nioma me na wase na mensra wunya subscribe ya na wa subscribe like video na shema wonu bi na ono so onya bi enhwe me da wase nyakopo nhira me na wo ebehye bi sisi de makra. Bye bye.